Stay in the know and make your voice heard on different projects happening in your neighborhood and throughout Hillsborough County by visiting Hillsborough County's Engagement Hub, the online home for outreach and listening efforts. From parks and recreation projects to roadway improvement plans, your input plays an important role in shaping the future of Hillsborough County. So make your voice heard by visiting hcflgov.net/hcengage.
It's very important to prepare before a storm gets here. That's not the time to start making a plan. Right now is the time to know what your risk is, what your plans are for your family, how to stay informed, and how to get involved and volunteer so that you can help your community before the storm gets here. Take preparedness seriously, as in these past couple years, we never know how a disaster will evolve. If you wait till the last minute, that's when everybody's in there wanting to get those last little bit of supplies. Take your time and making sure that you have all the exact items that you need to put in your emergency kit. That should be able to support you for up to at least 7 days. It's important to know your evacuation zone. If we get into a situation where a decision has to be made that you're in danger from the surge coming in that's created by a storm event, that you know when your zone is called that it's time for you to go. Preparedness, preparedness, preparedness. You never know what the hazard is going to be, what the event is going to be, but if you take those basic steps that we talked about, it can apply to any hazard that impacts Hillsborough County, and your family will stay safe.
welcome to the October 10, 2023 regular scheduled land use meeting of the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. Would everyone please rise for the pledge and invocation given by our chaplain, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, we thank you for who you are, and we acknowledge you in all of our ways. This morning, we pray a special prayer for Israel. We pray for protection over your people. We pray for protection over those that have been taken hostage, and we pray for their safe return home. And we pray for those that have lost loved ones and friends there. We ask you to give them a great peace in their hearts in the middle of this situation. And we pray for this meeting, and we ask you to bless this meeting and all of Hillsborough County. In your holy name, amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. Mr. Grady, you want to review the changes to the agenda?
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Grady, Hillsborough County Development Services. We have 3 changes on today's agenda, and after I go through the changes, I'll go through the published withdrawals and continuances beginning on page 3 of the agenda. The first change is on page 4 of the agenda, item A1, PRS 23-0878. This application is being withdrawn by the applicant. The next change is on page 9 of the agenda, item E2, PRS 23-0879. An additional party record has been added to the backup. And the final change is on page 10 of the agenda, item F1, rezoning PD 22-0075. There's a correction to correct discriminatory in the introduction shown in the first page of the staff report to remove a reference to a community home, residential home type C as a proposed use on the south side of the TICO easement. The applicant removed this use from the list of proposed uses in parcel 2 of the PD as part of the remand. Therefore, a corrected report has been submitted correcting the scrivener's error. That's all the changes to the agenda. Again, I'll now go through the published withdrawals and continuances beginning on page 3 of the agenda. The first item is item A1, rezoning PD 2018-0996. This staff is requesting this item be continued to the November 7th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A2, PRS application 23-0299. This application out of order period is being continued to December 12th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A3, PRS application 23-0382. This application is out of order and is being continued to the November 7th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A4, special use application LE 23-0498. This application is being continued by the applicant as a matter of right to the November 7th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A5, PRS application 23-0508. This application is being continued by the applicant as a matter of right to the November 7th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A6, DRI 23-0591. This application is being continued by the applicant as a matter of right to the November 7th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A7, PRS application 23-0767. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the November 7th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A8, PRS application 23-0789. This application is out of order to be heard and has been continued to the November 7th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A9, PRS application 23-0838. This application is out of order to be heard and has been continued to the November 7th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A10, PRS application 23-0877. This application is continued by the applicant as a matter of right to the November 7th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A11, as noted on the addendum, this item PRS 23-0878 has been withdrawn. Item A12, vacation petition 22-0005. Staff is requesting this item be continued to the November 7th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. And item A13, vacation petition 22-0019. The staff is requesting this item be continued to the November 7th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. That concludes all changes and withdrawals and continuances.
Can we have a motion to approve the changes?
Changes.
Motion, Commissioner Cohen, second, Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
At this time, can we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion,
Second.
Commissioner Owen, second, Commissioner Cohen. With no comments, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, so if you're here for a B item, your application's been approved. At this time, if you're planning on testifying today, will you please stand, raise your right hand so the clerk can swear you in?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You may be seated.
Okay, we do not have any vacation or right-of-way items today, so we'll move on to the public hearing agenda. Mr. Grady, want to introduce the first item?
Commissioners, the first item is agenda item E1. It's application PRS 23-0744. This is a request for a minor modification to a plan development that's at the northwest corner of Broad Street and Olin Avenue. The Commissioner's request is to modify an access point to Broad Street. Presently, the access point is emergency access only. This request is to modify that to be a full access point. Staff is recommending approval and is available for any questions.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning, sir.
Can you see my presentation? There we go. Good morning. My name is Dallas Evans. I'm a licensed professional engineer and certified planner with the firm of Landis Evans and Partners. My address is 3810 Northdale Boulevard in Tampa, and I've been sworn. I'm here this morning on behalf of the applicant, BSFR Glen Avenue LLC, who is requesting a minor modification to the plan development PD 18-0943, previously modified under major modification 20-0386. The subject 6.24 acre property is located at the northeast corner of the intersection of North Glen Avenue and West Broad Street. The property was most recently rezoned under major modification 20-0368 to allow for 61 single-family attached townhome units. At that time, the applicant had agreed to restricting the southern entrance on Broad Street to emergency access only. The current request is to modify the PD to allow for a full access connection to West Broad Street. With this connection, the applicant has agreed to improve West Broad Street from the east end of the project to North Glen Avenue by widening the pavement, redefining the existing ditch, and providing a sidewalk. There's no proposed change to the internal site geometry. To summarize some of the key findings of the staff report, staff has recommended approval subject to conditions. Staff has noted that this minor modification will have little effect on the general character of the subject site, which is zone PD today, and finds the request compatible with nearby residential uses. The Planning Commission has found the proposed development to be consistent with the comprehensive plan, and there have been no objections from any of the reviewing agencies. With that, I'll conclude my presentation and respectfully request your recommendation of approval. I'm available to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone here wish to speak in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Not going to have a motion?
Move to approve.
Oh, sir, you want to speak? Come on up. Good morning, sir.
Morning. My name is Chester Kwiatkowski. I'm a veteran of the United States Air Force, a business owner, and a resident and owner next door to this expansion. It is also my homestead. The questions that I raised in this, in fact, this whole thing came as a surprise. I apparently should have been here during other meetings because just the development of this project is a major change to the neighborhood. I don't think we were adequately aware of that original change. This is probably not the venue for it today, and that's unfortunate. It's interesting because we have Glen, trying to see the name here, Glen Acres or something like that, but Glenwood, just north of us, has same square area and the same acreage, and it only has one entrance. This particular entrance that we're adding in impacts an artery of the neighborhood that's already congested. When we try to leave during the day, it's very difficult. It is an increase in traffic from almost the absolute rear of Lakeview Heights, our neighborhood. And it would definitely increase traffic along that only artery We have dead-end streets. We have 6 dead-end streets along a single artery, and they're going to introduce a traffic that more than doubles the residency of Lakeview Heights. We're talking, we've got 63 drivers in our area. This is going to more than double. We're talking about something that's a sixth of the size of our neighborhood. They're going to more than double our occupancy on the road there. And that's going to drive right past my house every day. And that I think, I don't understand. My question is why? Why do we need 2 entrances? Why do we need to put it so far back that would traverse really 95% of our existing neighborhood? It might make sense in their mind, but it really makes a huge impact to our neighborhood, to the residents already existing there that did not ask for this change. If we are to go forward with this, there's a few considerations or requests that I'd like to make. One of them is to put a traffic light at Broad and Himes Street. Because right now, if I drive out and there's 2 people sitting there, I'm looking at about a 5-minute wait. I can anticipate seeing a lineup of 25 cars. That would be almost impossible to leave our neighborhood at that point. There's going to be a lot of wear and tear. The street's already broken up. I hear they're going to make improvements. I don't know what that entails, but one of the things is drainage. They're going to be introducing more traffic, a sidewalk, a change to the drain that backs up. The street does not slope correctly. So I would hope that we end up sloping the street properly this time rather than whatever they did last time. I'm sure no engineer took part in that effort. But the slope to the street would have to be modified, improved, redone, whatever that would entail. The other aspect of it is that any changes that are done to this, one of the changes I believe will have to be done is an upgrade to the sewage system, which means that we may end up having to, by virtue of the way the water department works, we will be mandated to connect to sewer, even though we've already got our septic systems taken care of, or our accommodations taken care of. We're going to have to connect to the sewer, and that's going to possibly incur fees, impacts, things of that nature. So I would say any and all fees we should not have to bear the brunt of those fees. If we are mandated to connect, that should be covered. I'm not just looking for lip service here. I want that in writing. Now, I represent a number of people in the neighborhood. A lot of people cannot make it. We work for and some people are elderly and they have doctor's appointments today. This has been a date that was put in, and this is a delayed date. This is a rescheduling, this particular hearing. So a lot of the people could not make it. So if necessary, I can put forth a petition that puts other names to this. But these are all real large concerns for all of us, that we don't incur fees and that we don't have additional traffic problems in a neighborhood that is already congested on that single road. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else want to speak to the item? The applicant, do you have a 5-minute rebuttal? If you could please address his concerns.
Yes, thank you. Dallas Evans again. With this application, as the gentleman had mentioned, we're not asking for any changes in density at this time. The current site plan is approved as it is. The only thing that we're asking for at this point is the second entrance. A second entrance had been proposed as part of the previous rezoning, but it had been limited to emergency access only. So by allowing the second entrance to serve project traffic as well, it'll help to distribute that, spread that traffic out amongst the local roadways. With this, we are planning to widen both Broad and Glen and bring those closer to county standards. Currently, they're very narrow. We're going to widen those as much as we can within the existing right-of-way, as well as redefining the ditches. And the proposed project will have a stormwater management facility to assist with certainly attenuating the stormwater from the project site. This area of town, as he mentioned, was not, particularly well master planned. So an improvement of this property would improve the area as a whole. There was mention of utilities in the area. Utilities are City of Tampa, and for new development within the urban service area, we are required to extend water and sewer. But with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
And I'm assuming he was concerned about additional fees in the community. I'm certain that won't be included, right?
I can't comment on that. If you are developing new property within the urban service area, generally you're required to connect to city or county utilities. In this case, it's city. So it should make it more easy to connect to those so that no one property would have to do a longer extension or anything like that.
Okay, thank you. Does the staff want to, before I go into board discussion, does staff want to add anything?
Just to add on the connection to the utility line, the county's regulations do require in the urban service area, for the most part, new development to hook up to wastewater lines. However, existing development that's currently served by wastewater does not have a mandatory connection when wastewater is there. If at such time as that septic system runs its course, the Department of Health may look at whether there's another system available before they permit a new system, but the extension of a line will not result in a requirement for existing uses to connect to that line that are otherwise on, say, septic right now.
Okay, thank you for addressing that. Commissioner Owen?
Yes, and this is not my district. This is Commissioner Cohen, so I won't be making a motion. But the Broad Street, did I hear you right? You said that that's just going to be emergency exit, or did I hear that wrong?
It had previously been limited to an emergency access under the previous rezoning. And now we're proposing to open that to project traffic and to improve Broad Street.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
Move approval.
Motion, Commissioner Cohen. Do I have a second? Second, Commissioner Myers. If no other comments, please record your vote. Commissioner Myers, do you want to speak?
Motion carried, 6-1. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda voted no.
Thank you. E2?
Commissioners, the next item is agenda item E2 is PRS application 23-0879, the applicant's Eisenhower property. This is a request for a minor modification to what's known as the Berry Bay development that's in the Waimama Village community plan area. This project was approved for over 1,000 residential units. This project was approved under the prior iteration of the community plan, and it's not prior to the recent adoptions, which changed the regulations in the community plan regarding, as we've had prior discussions about regarding community benefits under the new plan. Under this plan, they're subject to the requirement that required commensurate with development, the existence of existing commercial office type development within the Waimama community to provide job opportunities for the residential units being constructed within the PD based on a formula outlined in the applicable policies and the comprehensive plan that were in effect at that time. When this PD was approved, portions of the units, there was an existing development out in the area that could meet the job requirements for those entitlements. But there was a portion that did not meet those requirements. Therefore, it was conditioned that as the project developed and filed for site development permits and plats, they would demonstrate that at the time of those permits that there was existing job opportunities available within the Waimama community plan to accommodate those units. And they have been proceeding under those requirements and been developing and demonstrating compliance with that. The project is down to 101 units, and the request is to modify that tracking to not require those 101 units to be subject to waiting for those job opportunities to be in place. We note that the school board is constructing a school within the area, which will satisfy those job requirements, and that is known that will occur within the near future. Therefore, we're not objecting to the modification to allow the addition of the final 101 units to be platted in advance of the school being in operation. Planning Commission also looked at this and also recommending approval. Therefore, we are recommending approval and available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning.
Good morning. Cammie Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward, and Henderson this morning. representing the applicant. Staff did a good job of explaining the request. It's pretty straightforward. There's a high school being built. There are going to be more than adequate jobs to serve this development, and we would respectfully request your approval and are here for any questions.
All right, thank you. Anyone here in support of the application? Anyone here in opposition? Commissioner Owen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And yeah, I think you did sum it up really well. It's perfectly in compliance with my notes. Basically, when the school is built, it's going to be in compliance with the jobs requirements. This was before the community benefits, so I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Wostel. If no other comments, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
All right, E3.
Commissioners, the next item is agenda item E3, PRS application 23-0940, the applicant Stillwater Property Owners Association Incorporated. Commissioners, this is a request for a minor modification to the PD to remove a community recreation area that contains a tennis court and to combine it with an adjacent residential lot. As you can see on the aerial, this aerial shows the combined lot. You can see the tennis court on the aerial. That structure is a community building. A few years ago, this entire parcel was designated as a community recreation area within this PD. The HOA homeowners desired to no longer maintain the recreation area containing the structure and modified the PD to create an additional lot. At that time, they retained the tennis court for community uses. They have now decided they want to just basically combine that tennis court with that lot to just have a larger single lot there, which is lot 49. Staff is recommending approval of this and are available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, is the applicant here?
Yes. My name is Matthew Maggard. I am attorney with Shoemaker, Luke, and Kendrick. My address 13134 U.S. Highway 301, Dade City, Florida. And I represent Stillwater Property Owners Association, Inc., and they're the applicant in this. If you don't mind, I'll share my screen briefly. Staff did a good job summing it up. I will try to keep this brief. Essentially, this is for a property that is 2.37 acres, more or less. It was originally part of the Stillwater Property Owners Association, PD 970069, and it was modified through ways of minor modification for under PRS 22034, which is, like staff said, resulted in a lot split of that community lot. There is one change I want to note, that it is already approved for 49 lots, but we're changing back from RSCC2 to AC1, which is consistent with the rest of the lots. That change had to happen under the previous minor modification due to the setbacks. So we are going back to the standard. So in summary, we propose to undo the lot split and develop the lot in its entirety as a single family residence under the ASC1 development standards. The recreation facilities will be removed. This is the former lot with, you can see the lot split there with 49 being on the right and the park/tennis courts on the left. The vicinity map, the immediate area, which you've already seen. And this is the proposed change, making that entire parcel lot 49. And there are some minor changes to the conditions that were on PRS. The prior modification. And 49 will remove those RSC2 standards, and will remove the reference to the permissive use of that lot as a recreation area. Staff does not see or identify any compatibility concerns, and the staff supports it, and we would ask for approval. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Can we have a motion?
Second.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Myers, second Commissioner Wostel. If no comments, please record your vote on E3.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Okay, Mr. Grady, on to the regular agenda.
Commissioners, next item, agenda item F1, rezoning PD 22-0075. This is a request for rezoning from AR to planned development. This is a remand case that was heard previously by the board. Israel Monsanto will provide a brief overview of the request and the changes to the request since this part of the remand. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Israel Monsanto Development Services. The applicant seeks to rezone a parcel zone agricultural rural to a planned development to allow for redevelopment of a mixed-use project. The project is located on the north side of Boyette Road, half-mile west of Bell Shoals Road in Riverview. There is a TICO utility easement running east-west, bisecting the parcel in two areas. The project will consist of 86 multifamily units, attached single-family, north of the TICO easement labeled as Parcel 1 in the site plan, and up to 20,000 square feet of commercial, office, and residential support uses south of the TICO easement, labeled as Parcel 2, along Boyette Road. In order to achieve the 86 residential units at 6 dwelling units per the acre, the applicant is requesting to utilize Policy 19.3, which provides incentives to encourage mixed-use development by providing at least 3 uses on site, which in turn will permit a density or FAR up to the next land use category, where 2 uses shall be non-residential uses. Per this request, the non-residential uses have been classified into 3 groups. The applicant proposes a list and size of development that could be considered where at least 2 uses shall be developed in Parcel 2. One use from either group, where not 2 uses are chosen from the same group. The applicant is also committed to limiting the height to 1 story and architectural finish on all 4 sides with a residential-like appearance for the non-residential portion of the site. This case has been scheduled to the Board of County Commissioner Land Use meetings in 2 occasions and has been remanded twice to the zoning hearing master hearing. The first remand was requested by the applicant to modify a condition pertaining to the timing mechanism for the development of the Parcel 1 residential. That condition requires that prior to the issuance of any building permits for 58 dwelling units or more, the road and utility infrastructure, north-south entry road with sidewalks and pedestrian connections and utility stop-outs necessary to service Parcel 2 will need to be constructed and certificate of completion issued. At the second Board of County Commissioner Land Use meeting on March 7th, 2023, the County Commissioners asked the case to be remanded back to the zoning hearing master so that the applicant could reevaluate the density and number of units being requested and traffic impacts. However, the property owner was not present at that meeting to agree to a second remand, and the case was continued to the April 11th land use meeting to receive input from the owner. The applicant then requested a remand to the application to the zoning hearing master hearing, which occurred on July the 24th of this year. Based on the comments and input received at the March 7th Board of County Commissioners meeting, the applicant amended this request with 1 change. The change is to remove the community residential home type C use from non-residential uses in Parcel 2, specifically under Group C, residential support uses. The staff also made changes which is to clarify the pet day care use previously proposed. This use is being categorized as a kennel use as defined in our land development code, and the applicant has agreed to add restrictions to this use to prohibit breeding, rescue, rehabilitation, or adoption of pets. Also, the maximum number of children for the daycare has also been indicated in the conditions, consistent with previously submitted plan development site plans. The applicant has not proposed any changes to the number of residential units or to decrease in density or to the waivers locational criteria as part of this second remand. All previously proposed conditions have remained the same as presented at the Board of County Commissioners Land Use on March 7th. Staff is recommending approval of this petition subject to the conditions, and we are available if you have any questions.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Hi. My name is Mac McCraw. I'm with Madame Homes, 4107 Crescent Park Drive, Riverview, Florida, 33578. I have been sworn in, and Israel did a nice job of presenting the project. I've got just a few comments I want to make. So Madame Homes builds a first-class community We are committed to the communities we serve, and sustainability is one of our core values. In the last 3 years, Mattamy has developed and completed 5 townhome communities throughout Hillsborough County. Our townhome buyers enjoy proximity to suburban business centers at a more attainable price than new single-family detached offerings. Mattamy, in partnership with the landowner, envisions a small, thoughtfully planned mixed-use development along a well-traveled Boyette Road corridor. Through the use of the bonus provisions in your comp plan, this project presents an opportunity for more density within the urban service boundary and outside the coastal high-hazard area. In addition, the Boyette Road corridor is currently underserved by commercial and neighborhood support uses. And this map here helps explain. How can you zoom out? So the Alafia River, because of the Alafia River, presents a very natural barrier between Bloomingdale Road and Boyette Road. There is little opportunity for connection. So on Bloomingdale Road, there are corridors spaced about every half mile. Those corridors do not continue south of the Alafia River. And it's presented very little opportunity for signalized intersections along Boyette. And our project happens to sit at the only signalized intersection between McMullen Booth and Boyette. And we feel like this is a good opportunity to fill the needs of some community support uses. And so while our project sits at the existing signalized intersection, we did not technically meet location criteria, which would have opened the door to much more intense uses. However, the Planning Commission and zoning staff recognize the need for limited support uses along Boyette Road and are supportive of a waiver with a specific list of appropriate neighborhood support uses. High-intensity uses such as gas stations, convenience stores, car washes, and fast food drive-thrus are prohibited from being in this mixed-use development. And after thoughtful consideration, the Planning Commission and Development Services staff found the proposed development consistent and compatible. In July, the application was presented to the zoning hearing master, who recommended approval. I don't know if you can see it that well. The property is situated between the Tampa Bay Water Facility to the west and a conservation preserve to the north and east. South of the site is Boyette Road. The closest house in Waterford is over 500 feet away from any proposed townhome building. These residences are buffered by an existing natural vegetation along Bell Creek. Since the conservatory and the residents of Waterford are the most impacted, we reached out to both groups early in the process. We hosted a town hall with Waterford. Some were concerned about commercial uses and others were more supportive of commercial. The county and planning commission even received feedback from Waterford via an inter-neighborhood poll requesting homeowners for their opinion on appropriate support uses. The poll was utilized when we finalized our allowable commercial uses with the planning commission and Hillsborough County staff. At the request of Waterford, Mattamy also agreed to install a Trex-style fence. This fence will be of natural color and higher quality than a typical standard PVC fence. The fence will run along our east property line. For the conservatory, in the very beginning of the project, we offered to construct a parking lot and picnic cabana on our property. This would be for the purpose of accessing the conservation lands. We felt this would be a safer and more practical way for the general public to enjoy the public lands versus the present parking situation that's out there now. While we understand why the conservatory was not open to our offer, we were surprised to learn that they would object to our rezoning application, especially since Mattamy agreed to a condition of approval obligating us to install increased landscape material in our floodplain compensation areas and stormwater ponds. The Trex fence also buffers the entrance to the conservatory. Our environmental expert is on record stating that our proposed development offers a net environmental improvement over the existing use. Not to mention the removal of the driving range lights and the demolition of the tall surrounding nets will allow this property to better conform with its surroundings. At the previous BOCC meeting, there was concern that this would be the only Res 6 property in a sea of Res 4. And even with your approval, this map will still look just like it looks now. We are not changing the comp plan. It is also important to point out that every single one of those properties is eligible for consideration of 6 units per acre through the bonus provisions in your plan. The actual current land use along Bell Shoals tells a different story about compatibility. BPO, neighborhood commercial, churches, and utility stations are all existing uses along Boyette and allowed in the Res 4 FLU. So with regard to density, despite the Planning Commission, zoning staff, and ZHM recommendations of approval, in April of 2023, the BOCC remanded our application and challenged us to lower density. In response, we have agreed to remove the assisted living facility and its allowable bed counts. Although Commissioner Wastel seemed to support our application at the time, he had concern regarding these unit types. And we looked into it, and the project still remains viable without the ALF, so we were okay to remove it. We also considered removing the density of the townhome units, and we considered single-family homes on the site as well. However, this was not a viable option. Primarily, the power line transition easement takes up a tremendous amount of space, and due to the easement, only 40 single-family detached units will fit in the developable area. That's 40 40-foot wide lots. Reducing the density to 58 townhome units added approximately $25,000 to $30,000 per unit in costs. This is simple to understand as it takes close to the same amount of common infrastructure to develop 40 units, 58 units, or 86 units. Therefore, there are less units to absorb these fixed costs. This is exacerbated by the non-typical high cost required by the utility companies to cross their transmission line. The 28 additional units allowed by the density bonus provision will help offset these costs and allow the townhomes to be sold at more attainable prices when compared to single-family detached. So in addition, with traffic being one of the major neighborhood concerns, reducing to 58 units has very little impact on the traffic counts. These technical standards were considered in staff's review of our application. The staff report and our analysis show that our mixed-use project with 86 units meets the acceptable level of service. So these bars represent, the right is PM peak hours, the left is AM peak hours. The dashed line at the top is the acceptable level of service. Blue is existing right now. The gray is our project as proposed, and the orange bar represents the project at 58 units. You can see it has very little impact on the traffic. And this data was prepared by our traffic engineer. Therefore, we are still requesting the 86 townhome units. The bonus provisions of the comp plan allow for this density, and our application satisfies these provisions. This is an opportunity for you to support needed density in the urban services boundary and outside the coastal high hazard area. The sales prices of townhomes are also more attainable than the sales prices of single-family detached homes. Per Hillsborough County's Property Rights Policy 2.2b, decisions should be made based on true and accurate information. The concerns of the residents are well documented and are all included in the report. Staff has taken these concerns into consideration in their conditions of approval. The Planning Commission and Development Services staff find our application consistent with no compatibility issues. Per Hillsborough County Property Rights Policy 1.2, Hillsborough County will consider the right of the property owner to use, maintain, develop, and improve his or her property for personal use or for the use of any other person subject to state law and local ordinances. Based on the Planning Commission, Development Services staff, and ZHM's recommendation of approval, our application meets the laws and local ordinances. This is a thoughtfully planned mixed-use development. We collaborated with the neighbors and the county staff. We received recommendations of approval from the Development Services, the Planning Commission, and the Zoning Hearing Master. We respectfully ask that you also support this rezoning.
All right, thank you, sir. proponent testimony. Anyone here in support of the application? Okay, no one in support. Those in opposition, you have a total of 10 minutes. Good morning.
Good morning, Commission. My name is Jane Graham, and I'm going to speak for 1 minute, and there should be 2 other people online that'll speak right after me, Ethel Hammer and Gary Gibbons. Okay, so good morning. My name is Jane Graham, attorney at Sunshine City Law. I represent Jim Anderson. First, we object to the first 5 minutes, at least, of the testimony of the applicant. He brought in new maps and testimony that had not been in front of the ZHM, particularly the neighborhood support map with the Alafai River. We request that you disregard all of that testimony. Now, I'm going to make this really short. On March 7th, you requested a remand of this project so the applicant could reduce the density to make it more compatible with the neighborhood. This is R4, but with the density bonus, the project's density is R6. The R6 is not consistent or compatible with the single-family character of the surrounding neighborhood, and there's no R6 anywhere in the surrounding community. 7 months later, it's in front of you again, and the density is exactly the same. The applicant stated at the ZHM end just now that they looked at reducing the density to 58 units, but the problem is that it added 25 to 30K in cost per unit. But extra costs borne by the developer is not one of the criteria that zoning decisions are made under Section 100303E. The applicant failed to respond to the Commission's request to reduce the density and instead responded with excuses. There are numerous other technical issues and flaws, which other speakers will speak to, and I defer to them. I would like to mention that Ms. Hammer, who will be speaking to them, has decades of experience as a land use planner for Hillsborough County. We respectfully request that you deny this application. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I know we have a couple of folks, Ms. Hammer being one of them, that's on virtually.
Good morning. Can you hear me, Commissioners?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Good morning. First of all, I wanted to say I am shocked by the characterization of the applicant that we never responded to their offer of a parking lot for the Conservancy. We asked for additional information and never received it. When I appeared before you at the last public hearing, part of my presentation focused on the inconsistency of the proposed project with the comprehensive plan. At that time, I discussed the 3 waivers that the applicant needed to make this project work as proposed. Specifically, those were, number 1, an increase in residential density, as you've heard. Number 2, a waiver to the locational criteria. And number 3, a waiver to setback requirements. As I presented at the July ZHM public hearing, there actually is another deviation that is being requested for this project. If this project met the locational criteria of the comprehensive plan, it would be limited to 5,000 square feet of non-residential development. But because it doesn't meet the locational criteria, staff is recommending approval for 20,000 square feet, which is 4 times the amount of development they would be permitted if they met the locational criteria and didn't need the waiver. Pretty illogical and amazing, but it demonstrates how inappropriate 20,000 square feet of non-residential is at a location that is not at an intersection recognized by the comprehensive plan and would only be eligible for 5,000 square feet if it were. So the applicant is asking you to approve a project that has 50% more units than the current comprehensive plan permits on a promise to build non-residential units within an unknown time frame. They are asking you to approve 4 times the amount of non-residential development that would be permitted if the property met the locational criteria. No justification for these waivers has been given other than that the applicant will basically make more money. Is that an appropriate metric for determining compatibility and consistency with the comprehensive plan? This is a house of cards. If you deny the commercial locational waiver, they are not eligible for the increased density, none of which, by the applicant's own admission, are going to be affordable units. The greater the intensity of the project, the more impact to the Gibbons Preserve and to the surrounding neighborhood. We request that you reject the project as submitted and deny the requested waivers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hammer. I believe there was a Mr. Gibbons that was also virtual.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. My name is Gary Gibbons. I'm representing the Gibbons family. That's my 98-year-old mother, Helen Gibbons, my 3 siblings, and our 9 adult grandchildren who will all oppose this project. My father bought what is now the 60-acre Myron and Gibbons Helen and Myron Gibbons Nature Preserve in the early 1960s, and always wanted the property to stay undeveloped, which it did until it was donated to the Tampa Bay Conservancy, which has continued his wishes. The preserve, which is located immediately next door to the proposed development, has been designated as the only old-growth forest in Hillsborough County, and the county recognizes it as a significant wildlife habitat. The project is totally incompatible with the surrounding properties. This board remanded the application because of concerns about impacts on surrounding properties, and guess what? The developer made zero modifications to the proposed development since the last hearing. How can you tell how incompatible this rezoning is? Simply look at all the waivers they're requesting this board to grant, solely in an effort to increase the number of residential units. First, they ask for a waiver of the commercial locational criteria. The property is located half a mile from a suitable commercial intersection, which is Bell Shoals Road and Boyette. Yet they ask you to development in this unsuitable location just so that they can bootstrap more residential units on the property. Then the developer asks not to have to construct the commercial parcels until after the residential units are built, showing their true intent is just to increase the residential density beyond what is present anywhere in the area. Please say no to these requests, these waiver requests. They're not appropriate in this location. Traffic will be unbearable if this development's allowed, and the amount of impervious surface that will be created will undoubtedly increase the flooding of Bell Creek and the Alafia River. Bell Creek is a major tributary of the Alafia River. It's located a mere 30.4 feet from the northern boundary of the applicant's property and runs through the preserve. Bell Creek floods frequently and has many times since the 1960s. We had a bridge built that was made out of telephone poles that was swept away in a flood in the 1980s and was replaced by our family with a more fortified bridge that exists today. The preserve is a significant wildlife habitat area, and Bell Creek is a coastal high hazard area. It's the exact kind of property intended to be protected under Goal 6 of the Riverview Community Plan. That community plan clearly states that densities and intensities are to be reduced, not increased, in order to maintain, preserve, and protect the environmental quality and wildlife habitat of the Alafia River and its surrounding watershed. This rezoning application violates Goal 6 by seeking to intensify development by adding commercial uses that were never contemplated under the current zoning, and then trying to leverage that intensive commercial use to increase the density right next to the watershed and a significant wildlife habitat area. For the protection of this critical watershed and significant wildlife habitat area, this application should be denied.
All right, thank you, sir. Is there anyone here present that would like to speak? Please come forward. You got a minute, 11 seconds.
Ryan Brooks, 12714 Shadowcrest Court. I am the Vice President of Boyette Springs Homeowners Association, which is directly across the street from proposed location. First, I want to point out the euphemism of well-traveled Boyette Road. What that really means is traffic is already a nightmare, and it's going to get worse. Inside of our neighborhood, we have 1,100 homes and approximately 5,000 voters who are, when conducted of a poll, 99% are opposed to this measure. And these are people who come out to vote. I ask you to deny, not push it down the road again, because we've been fighting this already for 9 to 10 months, and it appears the tactic is just to stall, to wait us out. Our neighborhood is united and will not be waited out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You have 20 seconds remaining.
I'll speak fast. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Jim Smeaton. I'm a lifelong resident of Tampa Bay. We moved to Brandon in
Excuse me, Mr. Smeaton, I need to confirm that you're part of the record.
Part of the record, yes.
Yes, sir, I do see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, my family and I moved to Brandon in 1983, raised our 4 kids there. We moved to Riverview, 12805 Pintail Court in Boyette Oaks 25 years ago.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments.
One last comment.
Thank you, sir. Got to cut you off.
Appreciate you not.
At this point, thank you, sir. You're welcome. The applicant has 5-minute rebuttal.
Oh, may I just let you know that there was one other speaker?
I'm sorry, you have 10 minutes. You have
right. I just want to let you know that she's there to show her opposition, Jennifer Miller, for the record.
Thank you. Sir, you have 5-minute rebuttal.
Yeah, this will be real quick. Just want to let y'all know we did present at the ZHM, and the presentation was submitted to the record at ZHM. To respond to Ms. Hammer's mischaracterization accusation, I was trying to explain that we respected her response. My point was that we were working with the neighbors and the surrounding uses to try to collaborate on something that everybody could get on board with. I think the Planning Commission has found us consistent and compatible, and I think maybe they should respond to Mrs. Hammer's questions on the uses. And just another thing to point out is in the past testimony by the objecting parties and Ethel Hammer, they were okay with 4 units per acre. And again, we looked at doing less density on the project. And at the end of the day, what you end up with is a bigger house on a bigger lot. The same amount of property gets developed. There really is no net benefit to the environment. I'll close with that.
All right, thank you, sir.
I do have attorney Cami here. I've got Abby with our environmental group, Trent Stevenson with Level Up, and Steve Henry as our Links and Associates if you have any questions.
All right, thank you. Planning Commission.
Thank you. For the record, Melissa Leinhard, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the Residential 4 Future Land Use category. The site is located within the urban service area and also within the limits of the Riverview Community Plan. The area is mostly composed of residential, single-family residential with office and residential support uses to the north and to the south. Further southwest is a church and a school, and to the east is the Hillsborough County South Central Water Pump Station. To the north of the property is vacant land owned by the Tampa Bay Conservancy. The Residential 4 Future Land Use category surrounds the property and allows for consideration of residential development, suburban scale neighborhood commercial, office uses, and multi-purpose projects. Non-residential uses are required to meet commercial locational criteria in this category. The Residential 4 Future Land Use category allows up to a maximum of 4 dwelling units per acre and the consideration of suburban scale neighborhood commercial, as I mentioned. That would be limited to 175,000 square feet or a 0.25 floor area ratio, whichever is less intense. The proposed development is consistent with Future Land Use Element Policy 1.4 and Policy 8.1 regarding compatibility and the consistency with the Future Land Use category of Residential 4. A floor area ratio of 0.19 is proposed for the non-residential buildings, which is below the maximum 0.25 FAR allowed for consideration in this category. The applicant's proposed density of 6 dwelling units per acre exceeds the permitted of the Residential 4 category. However, the applicant is proposing a mixed-use density bonus that will as outlined in future land use element policy 19.3, and a condition has been placed on the proposed development to ensure that all 3 uses are developed to comply with this bonus criteria. Future land use element policy 16.10 refers to the compatibility of density increases within the community, and goal 6 of the Riverview Community Plan seeks to protect the Alafaya River. The Alafaya River is to the north of the subject property, adjacent to the preservation area, but does not abut the subject property itself. The property does contain a small portion of coastal high hazard area in the northeast portion of the site, but no development is proposed in this location. Commercial neighborhood uses have been proposed for the non-residential portion of the site to help meet the density bonus provisions. The applicant proposes to limit the commercial neighborhood uses to help achieve consistency with future land use element policy 16.3 by protecting the surrounding residential and natural preservation use. Furthermore, the non-residential uses are limited to the southern portion of the property. The residential use is limited to the northern portion of the property, and no setback reductions have been proposed adjacent to the natural preservation areas. The proposed request is consistent with Objective 16 and Policy 16.3 of the future land use element, which refer to the protection of existing neighborhoods. The area is mostly single-family detached residential with residential support uses and a nearby preservation area. The proposed mix of uses will complement the area and blend in from a scale perspective. The applicant is committed to limiting the height to 1 story and to an architectural finish on all 4 sides with a residential-like appearance. The applicant has stated in the narrative that the minimum lot size for the townhomes, that the minimum height for the townhomes will be 35 feet. The subject site does not meet commercial locational criteria, as the site is located approximately 2,500 linear feet away from the nearest qualifying intersection of Boyette Road and Bell Shoals Road. The prescribed distance, the requirement for that for two-lane roadway intersections is 900 feet. The applicant has requested a waiver to locational criteria with an accompanying justification. The applicant states that the proposed commercial uses are part of an overall mixed-use development, and the proposed commercial neighborhood uses are limited in scope and scale. Furthermore, the applicant proposes to limit the size of each use to no more than 5,000 square feet for most of uses and 10,000 square feet for the specific uses such as medical office or specialty food store. The proposed list of uses has been thoroughly reviewed and selected to help complement the surrounding area. It is not intended to introduce intensive retail uses. Staff recommends approval of the waiver to the commercial locational criteria. And quickly, I just wanted to point out or to address Ms. Hammer's question about the CLC waiver. When a site does not meet commercial locational criteria, the criteria under that objective 22 does not apply. So then the default floor area ratio would kick in to evaluate how many square feet you could have on a property. So that limit of the square footage limit that would be capped at an intersection is not the same when you don't meet the locational criteria, and a waiver is requested. Lastly, the request also meets Goal 1 of the Riverview Community Plan, which strives to achieve better design and densities compatible with the Riverview vision. The intent of this policy is to avoid strict commercial patterns and maintain appropriate buffering to preservation and open space, which the proposed request does accomplish. Based on those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the request to rezone 17.67 acres from AR to planned development to permit the development of a maximum of 86 townhomes, as well as 20,000 square feet of commercial, office, and residential support uses. The rezoning was previously remanded to the ZHM hearing at the request of the applicant after discussion at the March 7, 2023 Board of County Commissioner meeting regarding the density bonus and project traffic. Additionally, a question was raised at that time regarding the requested Type C community residential home and if the density could be converted to multifamily and/or affordable housing in the future. The applicant revised the rezoning application to delete the Type C community residential home land use, as well as the pet daycare and childcare uses. Clarification was made in the proposed zoning conditions. No change to the proposed number of dwelling units was proposed by the applicant. The applicant showed a bar chart to depict the trip generation rates of the proposed 86 townhomes as compared to 58 townhomes to assert that a reduction in units has a de minimis impact in project traffic. The PD includes a request to utilize policy 19.3 of the comprehensive plan, future land use element, which states that projects with 3 or more land uses may utilize the density of the next higher land use category, which in this case would be the residential 6 future land use category. The applicant has requested, excuse me, a waiver to the additional 2-to-1 setback for buildings over 20 feet in height on the west side of the project, which was found to be justified by the ZHM based on the fact that the entire western boundary is a Tampa Bay water supply facility. The applicant is providing a 5-foot buffer along the western PD boundary. The zoning hearing master found that the rezoning to plan development with the zoning conditions as prepared by Development Services for 86 townhomes and up to 20,000 square feet of commercial office and residential support uses would be consistent with the land development code and with the comprehensive plan and compatible with the surrounding land uses in the area. The zoning hearing master therefore recommended approval.
I'm going to board discussion. Commissioner Owen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this has been a real tough one for me, Commissioners. This area I know very well. You got to pick your poison whether you want to go east towards Lithia Pinecrest or Bell Shoals or west and hit 301. It's a really difficult spot to traverse. As a matter of fact, when I referenced last meeting, it took me 58 minutes to go 5.8 miles. This is the road. But I will say that I do want to say this developer, I do agree that they build beautiful communities and they are making, I believe, East and South County a better place with the communities they build. The issue that I have with this is, we did put it on remand, and my issue was the commercial locational criteria waiver pursuant to 22.8. So policy 22.8 provides that a waiver of commercial locational criteria is based on compatibility of the use with the surrounding area. And that's the real big issue I have when I drive down the road, or you can even look on the map. In our page 2 of the Development Services staff report states that the areas mostly consists of residential land use. Commercial uses are found further east at the intersection of Boyette Road and Bell Shoals, which is a 7-Eleven and a Wawa. And if you look to the north, you have a natural preserve, as well as the Gibbons Nature Preserve. If you look to the south, you'll see a single-family residential, the PD zoning at 4 dwelling units per acre. If you look to the east, you got a natural preserve, the Gibbons Nature Preserve, and then the west, you have the public water treatment use. So to me, the introduction of a commercial use and the density increase proposed is just not compatible with the existing surrounding development. So I am going to move for denial on this one.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion to deny by Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Kemp. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
Yes, I just wanted to say also that, there was 5 schools within 3 miles in that location, and there's already traffic slowing down to 20 miles per hour there, causing congestion at this time, and this would only make it worse. Not only traffic concerns, but safety concerns, and I did receive many emails against this, opposing it, so, but I will also oppose it, so. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Wostel?
I just wanted to say to the board that I have consistently voiced my complaints about this density bonus, and I would like to reiterate those concerns today and hope that we are reviewing them in the upcoming comprehensive plan amendment. Even if the motion's denied, what could this property be? Is it only homes that this is currently allowed use? I know it's a driving range right now, correct?
Commissioner, it's currently zoned AR, so basically be limited to uses permitted in the agricultural residential district, which would be residential agricultural uses, and some non-residential uses such as driving ranges are also permitted
no surprise apartments
No,
could?
multifamily would not be.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Commissioner Kemp?
Thank you, and I think it was well put, actually, by Commissioner Owen, and I definitely still support density bonuses for mixed use when appropriate, but I would say, too, that this is, if you just see that map, you see it surrounded by Res 4, you see the Alafaya River, you see part of it on a coastal high hazard area, which is something that we don't think about typically in a place like the Alafaya, but I actually remember flying over in a helicopter in 2017 during whatever hurricane that was, and that place was so immensely flooded. It was truly stunning to me, and that wasn't one that necessarily did lots of damage that we might expect or be as large as we might expect. But the waiver and the I'll say the result that happens when you ask for a waiver of locational criteria, but then because you don't have it, you get not 5,000 square feet, but 20,000 square feet, is not the kind of result we want. And this is just a pocket of the road here, again, and there's not even the residents that are on site to use that at this particular location, not to mention the traffic, the old growth forest. There's lots of reasons to deny here, and they can always apply again for what could be, the typical Res 4 without the waivers.
Commissioner Cohen?
Thank you very much, and everyone's comments are very well taken and appreciated. I just want to point out, we don't tend to apply, each one of these cases stands on its own. But when the board takes the action to remand something and give specific instruction as to what it's looking for, and then that it doesn't come back with any consideration given to that directive, it's really, I've never really seen that happen before, and I just think that it ought to be instructive that this could have been killed when it came up, but the board was attempting to work with the applicant and gave guidance to what needed to be done. So,
All right, thank you, Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Cohen, I agree with you 200%, because all that was returned today, that was the one piece that was missing from the board directions. Thank you.
Okay, we got a motion to deny by Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Kemp. If no other comments, please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-1. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda voted no.
Okay, next item.
The next item is agenda item F2. It's major mod application 22-1637. The applicant is David Wright. This is a request for a major modification of existing PD for a parcel that's located on the north side of Chelsea Road, east of Orient Road. Again, here's a close-up of it. It's just south of the state fairgrounds. The request is to add, as a permitted use, a 300-seat church. As part of that, the request will be removing other permitted uses within the PD, which include commercial, light industrial, and agricultural uses. Staff is recommending approval subject to conditions, and we're available for any comments.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here?
I believe he's online.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is David Wright, President of TSP Companies, and I have been sworn in. This application is seeking a major modification to an approved plan development. The plan development was approved in 1991. The PD allows whatever uses, including non-conforming uses that existed on the site when the PD was approved, and also a mix of agricultural, commercial, and light industrial uses. We're seeking to modify the PD to add a 300-seat church on the subject property, which is just a portion of the PD. The 2-acre property is located on the north side of East Chelsea Street and to the east of Orient Road. It is surrounded by a mix of uses, including single-family residential, public institutional uses, and light commercial uses. The Florida State Fairgrounds are located to the north of the PD. A church is a residential support group and consistent with the uses permitted in Res 6 and within the allowable FAR as proposed. Furthermore, the Planning Commission staff, Development Services staff, and the Zoning Hearing Master found the proposed church to be compatible with the surrounding uses and the request to be approvable subject to conditions. The application includes a request for a transportation design exception and an administrative variance, both of which have been deemed approvable by the county engineer if this modification is approved. The design exception addresses the substandard roadway condition of Chelsea Street. A sufficient right-of-way does not exist to improve Chelsea Street to the current county standard. Therefore, the design exception proposes the construction of approximately 700 feet of off-site sidewalk on the north side of Chelsea Street to mitigate the project's impact to the substandard road condition. The administrative variance seeks the approval to not construct a westbound site access left turn lane on Chelsea Street at the project's driveway. The request is based on Chelsea Street being a dead-end street with extremely low traffic volumes, where due to the relatively low volume of traffic, which is less than 5,000 trips per day, Chelsea Street functions more as a local road than a collector road, where local roads do not require side access turn lanes. Again, county engineer found both the design exception and administrative variance to be approvable subject to the board's approval. Last, I'd like to address the objections that were submitted into the party of record and also present at the zoning hearing master. Those were primarily related to increased traffic that could result as a result of this church. The two major traffic generators in the area are the Florida State Fairgrounds and the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. The proposed church is an off-peak traffic generator, so it will not contribute to existing congestion during peak hours. As previously stated, the current PD allows for a variety of permitted uses, and the proposed church is a lower traffic generator than some of the commercial uses permitted in the PD. Also, a school is an approved use within the PD at this time, and that would be a much higher traffic generator than the church. And last, the design exception will require the construction of 700 feet of sidewalk along the north side of Chelsea Street, which would result in the entire north side of Chelsea Street up to its intersection with Orient Road having a sidewalk. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions and or request your approval. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Thank you. For the record, Melissa Leinhard, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the Residential 6 future land use category. The site is in the urban service area, and it is also located within the limits of the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan. The area contains a mix of uses, including single-family residential, public institutional uses, and light commercial uses. The proposal is consistent with Objective 8 and Policy 8.1 of the future land use element, as the 20,000 square foot single-story church building is within the allowable 0.25 FAR, or floor area ratio, expected for non-residential uses in the Residential 6 future land use category. The proposed modification meets the intent of future land use element Objective 16 and its accompanying policies with regard to neighborhood protection. The proposal includes access to the church site off of East Chelsea Street, which is a collector roadway. Adequate parking lot facilities are proposed to be located to the west of the church building, and a 10-foot buffer with Type A screening is proposed along the north and west sides of the subject property, which abuts the residential uses. A proposed stormwater retention pond is located to the west of the parking lot, providing the residents with an additional buffer. There are adequate pedestrian facilities within the site, and sidewalks are proposed along the site's frontage along East Chelsea Street. And furthermore, the proposal is consistent with Policy 17.1, as a church is a residential support use according to the comprehensive plan. Objective 12-1 and Policy 12-1.4 of the community design component discuss how new development should be compatible with the established character of the surrounding area. The development pattern and character of this area contains single-family residential, public and institutional uses, and light commercial uses, and therefore the proposed church is compatible with the surrounding development pattern. The proposal is consistent with the intent of the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan, which the proposed church will promote development that recognizes the needs and distinct identities of the neighborhoods and enhance the quality of life of the East Lake Orient Park citizens. Based upon these considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed modification consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Zoning Hearing Master?
The zoning hearing master considered the requested major modification to Plan Development 9253 in order to allow development of a 300-seat church. The subject property consists of 2 folios with a total of approximately 2.04 acres of undeveloped land located at 7430 East Chelsea Street, located on the north side of East Chelsea Street, east of Orient Road. The property is designated residential 6 on the future land use map and is zoned currently PD 9253, which allows for a number of agricultural, commercial, and light industrial uses. The property is within the urban service area and within the boundaries of the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan. The zoning hearing master noted that the general area surrounding the subject property consists of a mixture of residential single-family homes, churches, strip commercial, retail uses, and the Florida State Fairgrounds. The zoning hearing master noted that owners of properties in the Kings Forest residential subdivision south of Chelsea Street appeared at the zoning hearing master hearing and spoke in opposition to the proposed modification, raising concerns primarily related to traffic on Chelsea Street and Berkeley Drive. The Development Services Transportation Staff Report shows approved uses under Plan Development 9253 could generate up to 1,208 daily trips, including 78 a.m. and 124 p.m. peak hour trips. In comparison, the proposed church could generate up to 262 daily trips, including 21 a.m. and 30 p.m. peak hour trips. Therefore, the proposed modification would result in a reduction of 946 daily trips, including a reduction of 67 a.m. and 94 p.m. peak hour trips, compared with the existing entitlements in the PD. The zoning hearing master noted that the Development Services Department staff found the proposed modifications to be compatible with the surrounding properties and in keeping with the surrounding development pattern. The zoning hearing master concluded that the proposed modification is consistent with the comprehensive plan and with the land development code and recommended approval.
Commissioner Owen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think it's important to point out on this to Mr. Gormley that I think there was a denial on this at one time before, but RLUIPA is what they're going under now, which basically stands for the proposition that you can't treat a church differently than any other type of proposed development. Is that fair to say?
That is a fair characterization of the RLUIPA law, yes.
And there is a lot more intensive uses than a church. I mean, you could actually probably put a convenience store here, correct?
Yes, that's correct. The zoning
Okay.
allows that, as well as an auditorium.
Okay, as well as an auditorium. So I'm not going to, it's your district, so I'll just sit back, but I would be supporting this, yeah.
Commissioner Myers?
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for approval.
Second.
We got a motion to approve, Commissioner Myers, second Commissioner Kemp. Commissioner Kemp?
No, I'm sorry,
Okay.
I had it there before.
Okay, no other comments, please record your vote. F2.
Motion carried, 7-0.
And before we go to F3, if we could have a motion to reconsider F1, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda meant to vote affirmative.
Motion to consider.
We got a motion to reconsider F1 by Commissioner Kemp, second Commissioner
I
Cohen.
wondered about that.
Please record your vote.
Motion carried, 6-0.
All right, then if we can have the motion to deny, it was originally Commissioner Owen and second Commissioner Kemp. Is that the same? Okay, please record your vote on the denial of F1.
Motion carried, 6-0.
Okay, great, thank you. F3?
Next item is agenda item F3. It's rezoning PD 23-0408, the Applicant's Florida Home Partnership. The request is rezoned from RSC2, the PD. This parcel is located at the southeast corner of Hickman and 7th Street in downtown Waimama, within the Waimama Community Plan area. Again, the request is rezoned from RSC2 to a plan development to allow for 2 units, either single-family detached or 1 duplex unit. affordable housing density bonus is requested as part of this application. Staff is recommending approval, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning again.
Again, I do have a presentation, if we could show that. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Dallas Evans. I'm a licensed professional engineer and certified planner with Landis Evans and Partners. My address is 3810 Northdale Boulevard, and I've been sworn. I'm here this morning on behalf of the applicant, Florida Home Partnership. The applicant is requesting a planned development rezoning. As mentioned, the subject 0.35 acre property is located in Waimama, 2 blocks south of State Road 674 at the southeast corner of Hickman Street and 7th Street. The property is currently vacant. Adjacent uses include vacant residential and single family to the north, single family to the west and south, and Waimama Elementary School to the east. The properties within the residential 4 future land use category. Adjacent properties to the west, south, and east share this land use category, while the properties north of Hickman Street are within the residential 6 future land use category. The property is currently zoned RSC2, residential single family commercial. The adjacent single-family residential property to the south, as well as the elementary school to the east, are also zoned RSC2. Properties north of Hickman Street are zoned RSC6, and those west of 7th are zoned ASC1. The current request is to rezone the property from RSC2 residential single-family conventional to planned development. This would allow for the utilization of the affordable housing density bonus to develop the property with either 2 single-family detached homes, or with a two-family duplex structure. Development will be subject to the building setbacks noted in the conditions of approval, which are consistent with the affordable housing development standards. To summarize the key findings of the staff report, staff has recommended approval subject to conditions. The Planning Commission has found the proposed development to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. There have been no objections from any of the reviewing agencies, and the land use hearing officer has recommended approval. With that, I'll conclude my presentation and respectfully request your recommendation for approval. I'm here to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition?
Good morning. Hello, my name is Nancy Calderon, and I'm here today again because I came to the first meeting to explain.
Sorry. Ma'am, could you repeat your name? I didn't catch it.
Nancy Calderon.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here to explain my opposition to the rezoning of this property. As he previously mentioned, the consideration is doing duplex or 2 single-family homes when that property is designed for just a single home, just like you see in the map. There's single-family homes. There's no duplexes. There's no other type of buildings, but there is a school behind that land. So getting back to myself, let me explain a little bit about myself so you can see where my concerns are. There are many reasons I am here today, but the most important to me is safety. The safety of my children, the community, and surrounding neighbors. In my career as a nurse, I have seen many things, from happy life-changing events such as patients recovering from devastating injuries and conditions to seeing patients unfortunately pass. I once was aboard enjoying a night with our family. We were at an event, and I helped an elderly man who was dancing with his granddaughter suffer from a heart attack. And I helped start CPR, started IV line, and try to help the paramedics get the guy going. But unfortunately, due to the lack of medical care in that area, the man passed. So all of these past experiences do not scare me as much as knowing that I could end up with a neighbor who is a dangerous criminal. And the reason I say that is because we don't know if they're considering the duplexes or doing that single home into 2, which will add more people, people living in those households. And I live in Waimama. I know how it runs in Waimama. I've lived there for many years, so I know the area very well. I know it's not uncommon to see a mix of household members living under one roof. Yes, it could be from 5 to 6 to 8 to 10, depending on their situation. You have a mix of grandparents living with their adult children to maybe help out with the care of little ones, or a mix of other family members who may have migrated to the area from other cities or other countries to help contribute financially to sustain that mortgage and the cost of living. And that is where my concern lies. I know there's no way to pick a perfect neighbor, and I understand this. I'm not asking for a perfect neighbor. I'm just asking to keep the property as a single dwelling home as it currently is. 2 neighbors, breaking one single into two, or adding a duplex, you will never have control of who lives in those duplexes. You're never going to be owners of that home. So you can have renters going in and out, kind of like a revolving door. So those were my concerns are. What I mean by this is these developers are likely scouted the property during daylight hours and mightn't appear safe to them, but yet I invite them or anyone serving the property to go during the evening hours or on a weekend or a major holiday. It is not uncommon to hear shootings on these particular days or loud partying going on. If I have two neighbors versus one doing these type of activities, then that jeopardizes my family and my community. These housing projects are to help serve the rural low-income community, and that is very applaudable. But then why are they trying to convert two lots, one single property into two lots on a tiny, tiny lot? I mean, as it is, if they do that, then you're gonna be just adding more people and you're gonna have those houses really close by. So you have to have interaction with these neighbors, people who you don't know. And again, I'm not trying to say I want a perfect neighbor, but I do want to know that my kids are gonna be safe playing in their own backyard. So again, that is where my concern is. I feel like there's going to be less space for those families acquiring these lots, meaning overcrowding for the next door neighbors. Is that really fair that I ask to have only one neighbor versus two? This property was surveyed for one single family home. It wasn't meant to be a project of houses, which is what they're saying that they're going to do. Because if I believe I did my math correctly, FHP is to provide housing, affordable housing to low-income people. And unfortunately, if you look at the studies, low-income households are particularly affected by unaffordable housing. And this is why you will see a mix of family members living under one roof, thus leading to the safety concern. There are many variables that affect crime in low-income communities, variables such as education, healthcare, and housing. And like I said, I am a nurse. I feel like I'm very knowledgeable, but unfortunately, you don't see that much or that many in the older Waimama community, which is where this property is. Studies do show that there is a relationship between certain types of crime and poverty. And again, I'm just stating what my facts are and my concerns are. Furthermore, remember that there is a school behind this property. Children play outside these schools. The school's playground could be the backyard of a criminal. We don't know who's gonna live there. And they may do their checks as they claim they do, and that's okay, because they may pass what initially they have to pass, but then once that's passed, you can control who goes and lives with them. Is it an uncle who came visiting and maybe overstayed their welcome? Or could it be a grandmother who's helping take care of the kids, or a grandfather, which we don't know their backgrounds? And again, if they, especially illegal or documented people, you will never have any control of that. But again, may I remind you that the school is behind that, and may I remind you that there's been so many elementary crimes and shootings in this country, and that is my concern, my kids. The only thing dividing the school and the background of these said two future homes are just 6-foot chain links, and that is it. So again, that brings a safety concern to me. Lastly, I'm here because stopping the rezoning of this property, whether it be 2 single-family homes or the duplex, I had to take vacation time off to come to this hearing. And even though this is not vacation, I am here and willing to continue to be here voicing my concerns. I want to thank you for listening to my pleads. I'm sorry I'm just ranting, but last time I was not prepared and I just didn't know how this worked. But I hope I have pictured somewhat of my concerns and displayed a little bit of what the neighborhood is. And you're probably thinking, well, lady, why are you saying that this area is a really bad place to live in? You're living there. Well, you know, the reason I'm here is because, well, I won't bore you with the details, but I will let you know that, you know, we are saving to provide for our children with the things we did not have growing up. We currently have our house paid and we live in the area. So yes, we are there because we have to save for a lot of plans that we have for our family, for our kids, for their well-being. And I just wanted to let you know that my main concern here is converting that, rezoning that single house into, or single property into 2. It's just not It's just not feasible, at least in my head. I would like to respectfully request that you deny the rezoning of any duplexes or convert it into 2 single homes. It is a very tiny lot, so you're just going to be crowding an area which really doesn't need any more housing projects. It's just a small little land. There's so many other lands that they can do their good deeds, and I applaud that. But I just don't think that the area where they're trying to rezone is the most appropriate for bringing in more people than what it needs. I do want to, if I have time, I don't know who FHP is, but apparently one of them knows my family member, and I don't even know how that came about. That family member sent me an email saying, and I will read to you, I'll try to read as fast as I can. And apparently based on the email.
Ms. Calderon? Excuse
Yes.
me, did you speak about that email at the zoning hearing master? Was that a recent email?
There was a recent email.
Okay, that is not part of the zoning hearing record, so unfortunately you can't talk about the email at this point.
Even though it's part of this, they were deferring me to try to come to this meeting.
If it was not brought into the record during the zoning hearing master hearing, or...
I don't even know how it works. I'm new to this, so I'm just letting you know those facts. But then I won't read the email. I'll just tell you the bullet points, part of my statement, part of what it is. So that family member said, hey, listen, I have a boss who wants me to send you an email based on their concerns. They want you to send an email to the county saying that you are okay with that you're not going to go to the board, and that, we're a reputable company, that we screen people, so that eases your concern. Well, maybe so initially, but once they get their houses and the payments are, what they are, they may have people come and help them, family members, people who need a place to stay. Doesn't always need to be family. It could be anyone they know, and if they're going to help them financially, then why would they not bring them in? We can't control that. The other thing that they mentioned there was that, just send an email and, we basically can move forward and with our plan. So to me, that's make me think that they already feel like this plan is in their pocket, like they can move forward. And I feel like, I don't think that that's correct, because, to me, it sounds a little bit off, a little shady, because I know the Board of County Commissioners wouldn't already have stated that this plan is a go when they're in their email, they said, or their statement, they said that, that pretty much it would make it easier if you just send an email and not go. So again, all these concerns for me are mostly for my family. I just wanted to bring light to what I thought was a little fishy with what I heard. And, again, I can't submit it, but if you need to, I will submit it. I am here for whatever you may need. I am just a concerned citizen, and I would like for you guys to respectfully deny the rezoning of the intention of whatever it is they want to do, whether it be 2 single homes and cramping the space, or the duplexes, which makes it even more concerning because now you have a variety of people who you just don't know their backgrounds. I thank you for your time, and I hope you reconsider this. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak to this item? All right, applicant, you have a 5-minute rebuttal.
Thank you. Again, Dallas Evans for the record. I would just add a couple things to rebut. The property is not designed for any particular use. It is zoned for certain uses, and we're being consistent with those uses in general, although we're asking for the rezoning only for density. With that, I would say the property is small for a PD. That is a little unusual, but the lots themselves are not particularly small. The neighbor had mentioned some concern about potential rentals or large numbers of people living in the homes. That's certainly not the intent. These will be single-family homes, whether it is a single duplex or 2 single-family detached. They will be deeded and platted. I do have on the line today Vanessa Josie, the Chief Operating Officer of Florida Home Partnership. Would like to turn the rest of my time over to her so she could mention a little bit what their organization does and what type of structure they'd propose to construct here.
Hello, I'm Vanessa Josie, Chief Operating Officer for Florida Home Partnership. Just want to talk a little bit about who Florida Home Partnership is, and I'll share my screen. Hopefully you guys can see that. So we were founded in 1993. So we're celebrating 30 years. We have built over 1,000 single-family homes.
Excuse me, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Ms. Josie, was this presented during the zoning hearing master meeting?
No.
Or is it part of the, was it sent in as part of the record?
No, sorry, I
So
didn't realize
at this point, unfortunately, you can't display that presentation since it wasn't made part of the record.
Okay, understood. So we pride ourselves in creating beautiful communities. Our intent is to build 2 single-family homes. I was going to show you pictures of what our single-family homes are, but I understand that I'm not able to. But typically, our clients are, we serve low to moderate income families. And our typical clientele, or average, about 78% of our clients are single-family homes. Single-family moms, sorry about that. And we have helped over 1,000 families achieve the American dream. In the past 30 years, we are consistently looking for solutions to help low and moderate income families to achieve the dream of affordable housing in home ownership, not rentals. That's what we do. And we utilize the USDA self-help program where families exchange their labor for their down payment on the home. So they're not getting a free home. They're working at a minimum 600 hours for 6 to 10 months on their home while construction, which is the plan on these 2 homes. So as a housing expert and as a resident of Waimama myself, we understand the urgent need for action to address the housing crisis in Hillsborough County, and we want to continue to do our part. So we respectfully ask for your approval on this project.
All right, thank you. Planning Commission?
Thank you, Melissa Leinhard, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located in the residential 4 future land use category. The site is located in the urban service area and also within the limits of the Waimama Community Plan and the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. The Affordable Housing Department has submitted a memo stating that the project is eligible for the Affordable Housing Density Bonus per the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan criteria under Housing Section Policy 1.3.2. This department is the technical expert that guides Planning Commission staff in determining if a proposed development meets the criteria for an affordable housing project. Their memo states that the units shall remain affordable for a minimum of 30 years. The distribution of affordable units shall be 2 units set aside for households earning 80% or less of the area median income, or AMI. The proposed rezoning meets the intent of neighborhood protection policies of the future land use element under Objective 16. The development pattern of the surrounding area shows several residential units, and the proposed rezoning would reflect a development pattern that is consistent with the character of the surrounding area. Objective 20 of the future land use element encourages new development and redevelopment of residential housing for special targeted groups. Policy 20.1 recommends giving high priority consideration to affordable housing provisions that increase housing opportunities for very low income households and workforce housing that are consistent with and further the goals, objectives, and policies of the housing element. The proposed project will provide a housing opportunity that is attainable and affordable, as well as consistent with the development pattern of the surrounding area. Policy 20.2 encourages the usage of density bonuses as a means to incentivize the development of more affordable housing. The proposed plan development is aligned with this policy direction. The subject site also meets the intent of the affordable housing and neighborhoods goals and strategies of the Waimama Village Community Plan. The plan seeks to encourage affordable housing that accommodates a diverse population and a wide range of income levels. The subject site meets the intent of this goal as the applicant will provide affordable housing options to households earning 80% or less of the AMI. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by the Development Services Department. Thank you.
Zoning Hearing Master?
The zoning hearing master considered the proposed rezoning of the subject property to plan development to allow for the construction of 2 affordable housing units through the application of Section 6.1107, the Affordable Housing Density Bonus of the Land Development Code. The property consists of approximately 0.35 acres of undeveloped land at 904 North 7th Street in Waimama. Property is designated residential 4 on the future land use map and zoned RSC2. The property is located within the urban services area and within the boundaries of the Waimama Village Community Plan and South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. The zoning hearing master found that the general area surrounding the subject property consists of residential uses, a county-owned park and sports complex, and a public elementary school. There are restaurants, retail, a post office, and a vehicle repair facility to the north along State Road 674, a church to the east at 4th Street and Hickman Street. The Development Services Department found the proposed plan development to be compatible with the existing uses, zoning districts, and the development pattern in the surrounding area. Staff recommended approval, subject to conditions, based on the applicant's general site plan submitted July 11th, 2023. As the board has heard, Planning Commission staff has found the proposed PD zoning to meet the intent of the affordable housing and neighborhoods goals and strategies of the Waimama Village Community Plan, as well as other elements and sections of the comprehensive plan. The zoning hearing master concluded that the proposed plan development is in compliance with and furthers the comprehensive plan and is consistent with the land development code and recommended approval.
Commissioner Owen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just to confirm too, Mr. Gormley, these are purchased. These folks get home ownership out of this particular type of development?
That is what the Florida Home Partnerships program is. The rezoning provides for single family or duplex, doesn't necessarily preclude rental or ownership, but I understand Florida Home Partnerships program does involve home ownership rather than rental.
Okay, so these are going to be home ownership for sure. There's not a rental component to it.
The zoning would allow either rental or home ownership.
Okay.
Funding the affordable housing project. So the project is coming in for affordable housing bonus that requires that affordability remain in place for 30 years. That arrangement with Florida Home Partnership, their proposal is to have these as owned homes. It's theoretically possible that some other use could come in and use a density bonus, but I'd say it's highly unlikely because we do have a user that is actively planning for the site and funding in place for them to provide that down payment assistance.
Okay. Yeah, and I know I've been clear about affordable housing out here in this particular remote still area, but if there's something that's encouraging home ownership, I've always been for that. And this is outside of the WVR too, though, right?
Yes, that's
okay,
correct.
So within the Waimama Village Community Plan, but outside of the WVR too. Yes. Okay, young lady that was here, I had my staff intercept her. Obviously, I'd love to be able to pick my neighbors too. It's kind of a difficult thing to do. But if there's any code enforcement violations or anything like that, I let her know that, please reach out to my office. But I'll sit back and listen to commissioners.
Commissioner Wellstrom?
Yeah, I wanted to address the speaker. Is she the resident to the south at that one house? She said her neighbors. Do you have that on hand? She's saying yes, so. I've been outspoken. I know that just earlier this year, 2 leaders of the Latin Kings gang was arrested in Waimama. They were peddling hundreds of thousands of dollars a year of fentanyl that actually just recently killed a close family friend down in the Waimama area. I'm well aware of the crime and the existence of criminals in the area. I don't know, though, that whether we left it zoned for one, even though this one lot looks like even if they came and tried to divide it into 2, would equal 2 single-family lots, which would likely be approved anyway. So I don't know that you would get some type of win out of that. And yeah, we just as government officials, you shouldn't want us to be able to, and we can't control someone's private property rights that are protected by Chapter 70 of the Florida State Constitution. That's just too much meddling of elected officials. And while it sounds nice, it would typically have a bad outcome. So I do understand your concerns of the crime in the area and aspiring to encourage the sheriff to have even more force down there is something that I should probably begin to work on. But I don't believe that land use is where we find the justification for that.
Well, thank you,
yield.
Commissioner Kemp.
I'm going to move approval. The Florida Home Partnership does wonderful work. And in fact, I usually think their properties seem quite expensive to me for affordable housing, but they've had great developments in the area and do a very good job, and I'm glad to see more what it is affordable housing. I'm not sure if I know there are issues with crime. I'd agree that it's not a land use issue. It is some other type of issue. And I'd say if a gang is making $100,000, off a sale or however much, they certainly can afford a single family home. And there's certainly been a lot of dangerous people that have been in single family homes as well. So this, to me, just isn't the forum, but I just want to say the Florida Home Partnership, they've done extraordinary work in housing. So I'll just move approval again and look for a second there.
Okay, we got a motion to approve, Commissioner Kemp, second Commissioner Cohen. If there are no other comments, please record your motion to approve.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay. No other items? We're adjourned.